Until Bob Barker retired in 2007, he seemed like the Energizer Bunny of game shows. Bob Barker was just always on, never stopping. But he wasn't perfect. Here's the deal with Bob Barker. Most of the film Happy Gilmore is goofily unrealistic, but Adam Sandler losing to Bob Barker in a golf course brawl actually captured reality to a T.
I think you've had enough. No? Now you've had enough.
It might sound absurd that a game show host who looks like your grandfather's grandfather could force-feed a year's supply of knuckle sandwiches to a guy less than half his age, especially when that guy is supposed to be an ex-hockey player. But in real life, Barker wouldn't have broken his hip trying to throw a rickety jab. He probably could have snapped most young whippersnappers in half. As the Sun-Sentinel explained, Barker, who was in his 70s when he filmed Happy Gilmore, received karate lessons from Chuck Norris for 8 years. And according to the Washington Post, he attained a red belt in Tang Soo Do karate training. So unless Sandler was trained by Bruce Lee as a child, he probably would have been clubbed like a golf ball in an actual fight with a disciple of Walker, Texas Ranger. It's easy to just pretend that Bob Barker was born wearing a snazzy two-piece suit and never changed. Unfortunately for your imagination, Barker used to spend a lot of time in a zero-piece birthday suit. Granted, this happened when he was young, but it's still hard to shake. Either way, when Barker was a boy in South Dakota, he did lots of skinny dipping. In 2007, he told Esquire he would go swimming 5 or 6 times a day. Barker has speculated that his youthful nudism came at a high price, explaining, "I get skin cancers from my misspent life. I go in every 3 months to get precancerous things removed, but it was all worth it." In 2005, Barker underwent treatment for skin cancer, but as of the making of this video, it appears that he's beaten the disease. Firmly in his mid-90s, Bob Barker has gotten to see things that many of us only view vicariously through facts-optional history programs. Barker was in his 50s when the Vietnam War ended, and Pearl Harbor happened 5 days before his 18th birthday. When the U.S. got sucked into the havoc of World War II, he enlisted in the Navy and trained as a pilot. According to the DeLand Naval Air Station Museum, Barker trained with 8 different planes at 8 separate facilities and became versed in formation flying, night flying, and aerial combat. However, the war ended before he got the chance to spay or neuter the enemy in a dogfight. Barker considered putting his skills to use as a flight instructor, per the New York Times, but a radio station job caught his eye. The manager was into planes, so Barker used his pilot training to land the job. Barker recalled, "I put on my naval officer's uniform and my wings of gold and went in and talked about airplanes for about 30 or 45 minutes, and I had my first job in radio." Although initially employed as a news writer, Barker also did sportscasts. This led to him filling in for a DJ and then for the host of an audience participation show, and he soon developed a taste for entertainment. Barker has loved animals since childhood, but his passion for animal rights started with his late wife, Dorothy Jo. He explained to ABC, "She stopped wearing fur coats before anyone was stopping. She became a vegetarian before people were becoming vegetarian, and I gradually did the same thing with her." Because of her, Barker also put an end to giving out fur coats as prizes on The Price is Right. He grew so opposed to wearing animals, per the LA Times, that he threatened to quit hosting the Miss USA pageant in 1987 because the swimsuit contestants were draped in fur coats. Fake furs were eventually used, although they make for terrible swimwear. Around the same time that Barker argued that objectifying women should be cruelty-free, he severed ties with the American Humane Association, a group tasked with preventing animal cruelty in the entertainment industry. As People detailed, he was barking mad about rumors that chimps used in the film Project X had been beaten with blackjacks and clubs. He accused the AHA of turning a blind eye to animal abuse. In 1989, he alleged that the organization let the makers of a John Travolta movie force muzzled canines to viciously attack each other. The AHA, meanwhile, accused Barker and other critics of defamation, sued them for $10 million, and eventually settled for $315,000. Barker openly bashed the group again in 2015, but the AHA didn't take him on. When it comes to animal rights, Bob Barker puts his money where his mouth is. He also put his money where Paul Watson's mouth is. Watson founded the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, which you may recognize from the Animal Planet show Whale Wars. The group basically hunts Japanese whaling ships like an ironic Captain Ahab and physically blocks them from killing whales. Watson asked Barker for $5 million to put the Japanese whaling fleet out of business. To which Barker replied, literally, "Let's get it on," but not in the Marvin Gaye way. Barker's hefty donation was used to purchase a 1,200-ton anti-whaling vessel capable of cutting through ice. To show their appreciation, Sea Shepherd christened the ship the Bob Barker, which was a huge missed opportunity to name an anti-whaling ship Moby Dick. Peter Hammerstadt, the Ahab of the Bob Barker, has prevented whaling vessels from refueling, allegedly rammed them, and performed a citizen's arrest. Paul Watson, meanwhile, has attacked ships with butyric acid, which Hammerstedt described as foul-smelling, rotten butter that's less caustic than Coca-Cola. It's worth noting that the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health recommends avoiding all contact with butyric acid because it can cause pain, blisters, skin burns, and respiratory problems that include labored breathing and a burning sensation. Perhaps that's why Watson has been branded an eco-terrorist and banned from getting within 500 yards of Japanese whaling ships. Since Bob Barker hosted The Price is Right for 35 years, he loves that show plenty, right? Not so, according to Barker. In 2009, Barker revealed to Good Morning America that he seldom tunes in to his old TV stomping ground. He explained, "I sometimes turn it on for a game or two, but I don't watch it. I'm not a loyal viewer." Of course, that might have something to do with the new host, Drew Carey. Speaking with TMZ, Barker seemed to throw shade on Carey, saying his replacement, quote, "does the show differently than I did. I tried to make the show really exciting, and he doesn't do that. He just plays the games." The media seized on those comments, obviously hoping Barker and Carey would have a violent showcase showdown. However, Barker quickly dismissed the suggestion that he bad-mouthed his successor, explaining, "I have a sizable royalty that I'm paid every year this show is on, and it's going on for years. I would be an absolute fool." Even if he sort of called Carey unexciting, he meant it in the nicest, least expensive way possible. Before 1994, Bob Barker seemed like a harmless, silver-haired charmer. That affable persona came into question when a former employee sued him for $8 million, alleging sexual assault and harassment. As detailed by the Associated Press, Diane Parkinson, who worked as a Price is Right model for 18 years, claimed Barker used various forms of coercion, including force, to make her perform sexual acts on him every week for 3.5 years. She further alleged that she slept with him for fear of losing her job, and that since quitting the show in 1993, she's received $1,000 monthly to keep quiet. A producer for the show, meanwhile, insisted the money was severance pay. Barker claimed that he and Parkinson had a consensual arrangement, telling people that he had a, quote, sexual revolution, courtesy of his accuser. Supposedly, Parkinson, quote, volunteered to add some hanky-panky to his life. Additionally, several female Price is Right employees painted Parkinson as overly flirtatious and practically incapable of keeping her hands off her 70-year-old boss. However, not everyone on the show's payroll corroborated his story. Model Holly Hallstrom would later claim that Barker unsuccessfully urged her to smear Parkinson as a liar in pre-arranged interviews and then fired her for refusing. In the end, Parkinson dropped her lawsuit, citing health problems. Afterward, Parkinson and two of her attorneys were fined $2,100 for refusing to comply with court information requests they considered invasive. Longtime fans of The Price is Right probably know that Barker's beauties were the exclusively female models who silently presented items of the show during the Bob Barker era. In fact, The Price is Right didn't have its first male model until 2012. At first blush, being a Barker's beauty seems like an easy gig, but appearances can be deceiving. As we've discussed already, in 1994, former model Diane Parkinson accused Barker of abusing his power and abusing her sexually for years. And the following year, Holly Hallstrom, a Barker's beauty for 19 years, sued for age and gender discrimination. According to Hallstrom, Barker used her weight as a pretext to fire her because she refused to discredit Diane Parkinson to the press and lie about the firing of a director. After a lot of legal wrangling, the court ruled in Hallstrom's favor in 2005. She was living out of her car and had gone bankrupt in the meantime, but in the end, she was awarded millions of dollars. Janice Pennington had several ugly experiences in her 29 years as a Barker's beauty. After an out-of-control camera knocked her off the stage, she needed multiple surgeries which shortened one of her shoulders. In 2000, she and model Kathleen Bradley were abruptly fired. Pennington told the LA Times that Barker didn't even say goodbye. Bradley speculated that the firings were payback for contradicting Barker's testimony during the Hallstrom lawsuit. Barker said the various charges leveled against him were all in the models' heads. The wonderful and terrible thing about television is that it creates a sense of control and reliability in an uncertain world. You can reside in whatever bubble you want, and no matter how artificial it is, it starts to feel like home after a while. As a game show host, it was Barker's job to seem warm and authentic, but he's left numerous employees with a bitter taste in their mouths. One of those people was Deborah Curling, who used to screen contestants for The Price is Right. According to the lawsuit Curling filed in 2007, once Barker assumed the role of executive producer in 1990, he made it his mission in life to destroy the livelihood of every person who contradicted him or did not do what Barker ordered her to do, whether it was legal or not. Curling claimed she was added to that enemies list once she testified on behalf of Holly Hallstrom. After corroborating claims that Barker fired Hallstrom over her weight, Curling was allegedly subjected to hostile working conditions and racial slurs. Such allegations are incredibly hard to prove, however, so a judge tossed the case in 2009. We'll likely never know the whole truth, but multiple women who've crossed Bob Barker lost their jobs. Some even lost their homes. That's a high price, and it doesn't seem right. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.